This crowd rises to its feet. Okoro slammed it home. Garland left wing, free ball. Perfect! Garland part of the lane, locked to Mobley. Pow! And Allen blocked the shot at the rim. Pow! With the left hand and a foul.
Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs Media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo TV. Watch over 100 channels of live sports and TV for half the cost of cable. There's no contract and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com. With me today is my co-host, Carter Rodriguez. And Carter, they don't ask how, they ask how many. The Cavs are streaking once again. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I thought that was, call me a sicko. I loved that game against the Phoenix Suns.
I'm going to say it right at the top. And you messaged me, like, Carter's not putting on a show because this was a win. He messaged me in the game.
Early third quarter, if I recall correctly.
Down 7, which felt like a bigger and more insurmountable lead than 22 against the Chicago Bulls. Like, it felt so bad because the offense just wasn't there. This sick person was telling me that he was enjoying it. What are you doing, man?
And I was. I don't know. Something about me, especially like, I thought the defense actually was quite good in this game. Mm-hmm. That's actually, I think, an important place to start with that rock fight. Obviously, neither team was operating at 100%. No Devin Booker for the Suns, and Chris Paul's looking a little long in the tooth. I won't lie to you, brother. And then obviously the Cavs with the hangoverist of hangover games on offense. But you know what? Like, I thought both teams were trying really hard the whole time. I don't think the effort level ever really dropped, which is why it never really got too pretty, even when the scoring ticked up slightly in the fourth quarter. And, I don't know. I like basketball games where I'm watching teams like really have to work to score and to solve a problem. And, the Suns are such a strong fundamental team. I think Ayton is a really, really tough matchup for Jared Allen, specifically. And I thought the Cavs really had to work to win that game. And I think the end product was a really fun-ass game.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly fun to win. We've had a handful of games this year where we said, hey, that's a game the Cavs should have won. They played better, but they just didn't win. This is kind of on the other end. Like, I do agree with you. I think the defensive effort was really good, but you look at these last couple games, all of them could have been losses. The last 2-minute report did confirm that Donovan Mitchell entered the lane a hair early. I will point out that I believe it was Andre Drummond stepped in before the shot even went up.
Yeah, as did every other player on the court. I don't know if that's the rule in the NBA. The ruling on the website is confusing enough that I didn't want to weigh in with that and look like an idiot. But because I do that enough on my own. But with that said, like, I thought, growing up in my day, Justin, everyone had to wait for the ball to touch the rim to get into the lane. And since no one does that anyway, it's kind of hard to worry too much about it, in my opinion.
Well, we've had some games that haven't gone our way too when you look at the last 2-minute reports. So that's why I'm not going to do any apologizing. You look at the Clippers game, that would have been a win if it was called correctly. You look at Klay Thompson going Vontaze Burfict over the middle to free up Steph Curry and take out Okoro.
That's a reference I wasn't expecting to hear.
Like, honestly, there's been enough instances, and Chicago probably feels against us the way that we felt against the Philadelphia 76ers last year, where we had 2 games against them where there was those late calls that didn't go our way and you lost them. But it's the ebbs and flows of the season, right? Like, you're going to drop games that you should win, and you're going to win games that you shouldn't win.
So I'll say this, that Suns game, I would not qualify that as a should not win, because I thought they played really awesome defense the entire way through. They kept themselves in the game.
I was going to make that clarification because the nice thing about how good the Cavs are on the defensive end is it's going to keep them in games where the offense is a little ugly, right? Like, I thought they did a good job generating clean looks for the most part. It took them a little while to find their rhythm offensively, but they eventually started getting better looks that just didn't go down. And it really did seem like when Karis LeVert started to find a rhythm and knock down some threes, the rest of the team, like, they started breathing shooting just a little bit easier. They felt a little more comfortable, and the offense was able to flow from there. But absolutely, when you do play defense this well consistently over the course of a season, it's going to keep you in a lot of these games and keep you alive when the offense just isn't there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, also your bench players, your effort players, like Raul Neto keep you in the game. Justin, vindication. I'm telling you, I think Neto has really gotten, I think like when he gets extended run, when he knows he actually is going to play, I think we're seeing that he's a very capable player, a very capable backup point guard. I know he isn't like a perfect prototypical fit for this team, just insofar as, the shooting isn't perfect and all that fun stuff, but like he really does affect games when he's out there and when he gets a chance. And I really don't think they win this game without him. I think he completely flipped the energy. And, as you said on Twitter, was in deep in the Chris Paul bag of nefarious tricks. And I don't know, man. Everyone knows that I'm a big Neto fan, and I've wanted this team to take a chance on him for years. And I feel very vindicated given the performance that, won us a game that, was not trending that way last night.
And he got the junkyard dog chain. I mean, I think some people are a little too harsh about the junkyard dog chain. They're like, it's like a little bit corny. Sports is supposed to be silly and fun, right? Like, what are we doing here? That chain is awesome. It's a lot of fun. And what I like about it is it does kind of highlight when you look at how many players have received it over the last, since they've started doing it. It's kind of fun to see. Yeah, Raul Neto did come in and make a big difference in this game. I remember there was a game last year where Dylan Windler came in and got double-digit rebounds in the minutes he was out there and got the chain as a result of it. Like, it kind of does kind of make you appreciate all these other performances that you get from guys. And Raul Neto, this isn't the first time he's made an impact. Like, I remember the game where Garland and Mitchell were out in Detroit, where he was pressuring guys full court. He just
the Washington win that we attended earlier in the year. I think that definitely qualifies as well.
Absolutely. Like he can make a big difference out there, and just having a steady hand come in off the bench and give them a spark, hit some shots. The fadeaway he hit baseline by the Cavs bench was absolutely ridiculous. Jimmy Longo got an incredible photo of that one. It was just a really fun performance, and we kind of buried the lead here, Carter, because even though he had a very tough game in his return to the lineup, Evan Mobley hit his first ever game-winning shot.
Yeah, it was really nice. It was cool to get to see. Obviously it was a really rough game for him too. He was very little was getting done for him. Looked a little clumsy with the ball. Phoenix was packing the paint super well. I think they guarded him very well as well.
They guarded him and Allen well. Like Allen being held to just 3 field goal attempts. There wasn't a lot of guys making things easy for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it was, it was really cool to get to see him have that moment. And he looked confident, and more importantly, I felt confident it was going in. It looked like a design play as far as I could tell. The way he was kind of drifting aside, and the fact that Donnie threw a no-looker back to him. And, nothing but net. And I will say this. Obviously, no one. I'm reluctant to point out when the Cavs are getting lucky. We've had quite a few game-winning attempts rim out on us so far this season. I think we might be due for a little regression sometime soon here.
That's a great point. And for Mobley to be the one that hit the shot, like that's just so encouraging, because it is funny when you look at these fourth quarter field goal attempts. Obviously, he's not shooting a ton of jumpers in these moments, but it seems like he's hit them all this year. Like he's hit multiple 3-pointers when the Cavs really needed in the fourth quarter. And you're right. It did feel like a design set. He shot it confidently. He hit the shot, even though he wasn't having a good game. Like that's the kind of little stuff, right? When we always talk process over results. The fact that he still had that confidence to take that shot, to hit that shot in his first game back to the lineup was really encouraging, and we'll probably need him to play well, because looking at the injury report, Donovan Mitchell has been ruled out against Denver for rest. That's understandable. After 71 points, certainly looked tired against Phoenix, and he did have that spill where it looked like he hurt his hamstring. Fortunately, he was able to keep going. So maybe just playing it safe there and giving him some rest. Darius Garland has been upgraded to questionable for that game, so that's really exciting. And Ricky Rubio and Dean Wade have still been ruled out for Denver, but they're traveling with the team on that road trip. As we mentioned on the last podcast, Chris Fedor reported that there's belief that Wade could return within the week, and Ricky seems close too. So odds are, as the Cavs go on this long road trip, that we're going to see some pretty important players return to the lineup.
Yeah, it's a 10-day road trip, I believe. And it does seem like everyone's getting close. It feels like everything's starting to come together. Obviously, no guarantees here. It seems like Wade could be back, that based on the report, but something might slow it down. Same with Rubio, but based on what we've heard both from the team and from journalists covering the team, seems like those three are going to be playing ball soon. And this Cavs team, when they have all their weapons available to them, just seems so dangerous, because they've been winning. They've been hyper competitive despite not always having every option available to them, and it's really, really exciting. It feels like it's going to be so important for JB to get to actually evaluate some lineups. It's going to be important for Kobe to evaluate the roster in terms of what they might need either at the trade deadline or on the buyout market. Yeah. It's just going to be a lot of data, a lot of information coming.
Yeah, February 9th is coming up sooner than you think. The other part of the Phoenix game that we definitely need to talk about was there was a change made to the starting lineup. Karis LeVert was obviously filling in for Darius Garland, but JB Bickerstaff did go with Isaac Okoro, subbing Lamar Stevens out of the lineup. I thought this was definitely deserved. I know you and I have talked about this in the past. I definitely do understand, and I think we're going to see it with Wade returning the lineup too, where JB Bickerstaff seems to like to give guys a chance to work it out, right? Like at the start of the year, it was Karis LeVert. He earned the job because he played really well through camp and preseason. He got some time to figure it out. Lamar Stevens, there were stretches and games where he played really well in it, but the effectiveness of the overall lineup, like we said, wasn't great. And since he's come back from injury, his play hasn't been as strong as it was prior to him missing time. But he was given time to figure it out. And Isaac has just kind of consistently been playing better recently. And I thought that this was a deserved chance. Now, you and I have long kind of said that we think Dean is on paper the best option at small forward, but I'd expect him to take some time to get back comfortable, to get into a rhythm as well. And I think Isaac's probably going to get a little bit of an extended run here, if I had to guess, to try to make things work with the starting lineup.
Based on kind of what we've seen, I think you're right. I think that Isaac has definitely earned the minutes. Though if you look at the minutes from last night's game, I actually think they, more than most nights, better represented who deserved the minutes on the wing that got them. It goes Karis, who played 38, and I thought he was awesome in that game.
He was probably the best player last night for the Cavs,
I would tend to agree. I mean, just hitting 5 threes on a night you're starved for offense is so important. 5 of their 11 total made threes came from Karis. So Karis played 38. Jetty played 33. I thought Jetty was awesome as well. 12 points on 12 shots, but a plus 11. Continues to be the plus-minus superstar of the team. Yep. Still think he is the best.
Leading plus-minus, Carter.
Unbelievable, but also believable based on kind of what we've seen. And, and that's why I don't really care who starts, because, if Jetty is your best wing contributor in this game, outside of Karis, and he gets 33 minutes, I don't care if he starts. So Jetty goes to 33. Then up next, it goes to Okoro, who played 19. And then Lamar, who played 6. And I feel like based on the way the game was going, based on what the team needed at the time, I think that's exactly the right split for this game. And yeah. I thought JB did a really nice job with his rotations, I guess is what I'm saying. And I also appreciated that he didn't lean on Donnie too hard There was a couple stretch. Donnie ended up playing 36 minutes. There was a stretch, I want to say the last like 3 minutes of the first quarter, and then the first like 4 or 5 minutes of the second quarter, he was sitting. And I really appreciated that JB kind of saw the long game, didn't get antsy to put him back in, and I think the Cavs, earned that trust by staying close enough to eventually come back and win the game.
Yeah, I completely agree. And when we talked about kind of the starting lineup, well, the main point that we had wasn't necessarily who starts. It's, you look at the minutes that other options have played with the core four, and it was just so small that we would like to see, mixing it up, right? Trying different looks. Let's see what combinations work. And that's going to be true no matter who's healthy and no matter who's starting, just to kind of get a better sense of how this roster works. And the main thing about starting is probably gives you your best chance to get extended run with the core four. But we've seen it time and time again that JB will ride the hot hand. He is going to make those adjustments in game. And I just think Okoro's played really well recently. To me, the turnaround point was that first start that he got against Dallas. It's been 9 games since then. He's averaging about 9 points per game, 52% from the floor, shooting just 30% from three, but he's taken almost 3 threes a game at just over 21 minutes per game. That's nice. It's nice to see him get them up. He had one against Phoenix there. The confidence just seems so much higher with him. And I think overall, just the two-way play, the way that he gets out in transition, he had a great move that he blew the layup at the rim. But I thought he was creative in getting to the basket. And the other thing I've noticed with him too that I've really enjoyed, he's much more active as a screener, which was something that we called for quite a bit last season.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think he's definitely just been a lot more aggressive. He's been out there in a way that he looks under control. He looks like he kind of has a plan out there, and I've appreciated his minutes. I think he had a rough whistle in that second Bulls game, and DeRozan's obviously one of the toughest covers in the league with that regard. I thought he did a great job on Chris Paul last night, even though Chris Paul got his 25 on 17, because he is still an absolute fiend, even though
those
he's
shots to end the half and the quarter. That was the stuff that got me feeling pessimistic, because when those type of shots go in, you usually assume, hey, this is just not our night.
Yeah, but I thought he did a nice job on him. He stayed connected in the pick and roll. He bumped him off of his preferred spots as much as you can, even though Chris Paul's preferred spots are like everyone else's least preferred spots, so it's a lot of work. But yeah, it was really, really pleased. Justin, how many games are the Cavs going to win this year where they're missing one of their core four and the other 3 combined to shoot, let's see here, 9 for 32?
Probably not a ton.
Probably one. This might be the one.
Hopefully the sample size of instances where that occurs is very, very small. So I'm going to hope that this is the one. But it does go to show kind of the depth that they have, especially on the defensive end. I thought Kevin Love played pretty well as well. Not great. He missed some open shots, but got rebounds that really matter. And it's funny. I was looking at the numbers, Carter, and the Cavs have improved quite a bit on the defensive glass, which was one of the things
they're awesome.
When we were doing our report cards at the end of last year, one of the things that we kind of highlighted was, hey, it'd be nice if Jared and Evan rebounded a little bit better, because you look at how many close games they lost and giving up those second chance opportunities, missing free throws, like all that stuff really matters in those instances. Last year, they were 18th in defensive rebounding percentage. This year, they're up to 3rd. And some of that is Evan improving. He's up, I believe, like 7-8%. In terms of percentile for defensive and offensive rebounds. We've talked about his improved rebounding a fair bit. And another thing is, you got to credit Donnie, because he is a very good rebounder for a guard. And when you get that on the perimeter, I think that was one of the things that the Cavs were missing.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And that was, I think, a fair critique of Isaac Okoro and Lauri Markkanen last year, is for having pretty darn good size at the 3 and at the 2. They would often have 3 rebound type of games. And Donovan is a 5-6 rebound a game type of guy. But I do think a lot of it comes down to Jared and Evan. I think I would never take away their flowers here, because I think they are much more sure-handed when they're grabbing the board that Evan specifically really goes and attacks the glass now, as opposed to kind of letting the ball fall into his hand, and attacks with two hands and rips violently. Like exactly the kind of form you want to have. I think they're smarter on box outs. I think they are. I don't know if they're switched out on the perimeter any less, but it feels like they're in the scrum for rebounds a little bit more often, and they're not getting killed by these kind of offensive rebound merchants. Guys like Bismack Biyombo who throw their bodies around and kind of create chaos. Like, they're not getting killed on the offensive boards for the most part, even against good offensive rebounding teams. So I've been very, very impressed. I think it's part of the reason they're the number one defense in the league right now. And I think it was something that kind of kept them from being a truly elite defense. We watched them lose games last year because they still couldn't secure boards. And it's actually funny. I still see people kind of tweeting about the team needing more toughness on the boards, and I just think that's just an outdated take. I think that they are as good as they need to be as defensive rebounders and at ending possessions, and the numbers bear that out.
Yeah, I do think that there are certain matchups where Jared could be a little bit stronger. Like, I think you look at teams like Toronto that send four guys at you when you're trying to pull down a rebound, and he could get flustered or bodied in some of those situations. But I don't think it's necessarily a strength thing. I think it's just you have to have kind of the right mentality in those situations and know this is a team that's going to swarm. They're going to be incredibly physical in these spots and try to secure it. But I think defensive rebounding is a big part of why the Cavs' defensive numbers for the season don't drop off when Kevin Love's on the court, because he ends so many of those possessions, right? Like, we've talked about the open 3-point percentage for other teams and stuff, but even wide open shots, like Steph Curry for his career shoots 47% from three when he's wide open. So he's going to miss over half the time, and Kevin Love is there to pull down those rebounds and end those possessions, right? So I do think that he helps a lot there. And Isaac, his defensive rebounding percentage is up 4% this year. And one of the things that we talked about when we wanted to see growth from Okoro was the other stuff, right? Because we know his on-ball defense was good, but he wasn't a stocks guy. He wasn't an event defender. The rebounding wasn't great. And the fact that he is rebounding better, the fact that you do see improvement both in steals and blocks. Last year, his block percentage was 1%, which was in the 32nd percentile. This year, it's up a full percent. It's 2% up into the 66th percentile.
Isn't that crazy how low block rates are? The fact that going up 1% jumps you to an entire extra third of the league from a percentile perspective. That's nuts.
Yeah, it really is. And hey, steals is even smaller. I mean, last year he was at 1.4% for steal percentage, which was in the 49th percentile. This year it's 1.6, which is up to the 67th percentile, right? Like, so he's contributing more. I feel like he's playing above the rim more too, which is something that I've noticed. I just think all around, he has improved his game a fair bit. Even his shooting at the rim. He's shooting 67% at the rim, which is up 7% from last year. He's fifth highest on the team. Carter, do you know who the top five is in finishing at the rim for the Cavs?
I'm part of the Chasetown podcast Discord server, so I do, but you can tell the listeners.
Well, Evan Mobley is top at 74%. He's actually in the 92nd percentile, so golf clap for Evan. Jetty is number 2 at 71%, followed by Jared Allen at 69%, which is very nice. Donovan Mitchell at 66% and Isaac Okoro at 66%. So they've got a few guys finishing well. Garland is still down there. Karis LeVert has gone up to 58% after a brutal start to the year. So it's nice to see Isaac improve in all these areas.
Yeah, it is certainly nice. I still want to see it for longer. I still need to see the 3-point percentage go up. Like, all this stuff is nice. You can't shoot 26% from three. No, you just can't as a wing in this league, especially if Mobley and Allen are going to continue to get so many minutes together. So while I'm encouraged, I don't want to go over the top with it because the 3-point jumper just has to get there. It just has gotta,
Yeah.
Two of 6, if every night he's shooting either 2 of 6 or 2 of 5, like, I'm feeling okay, but it's still really, really low volume and low percentage. and it's just not there yet.
Yeah, I want to see those attempts go up. I don't want to see him passing up looks. And I think if he continues to take the shots that are available to him, to be more active off ball, he's going to be rewarded with opportunities there. And I agree with you. I don't think you got to make tons out of it, but we are at the halfway point of the season pretty much. So I thought it's at least a good time to kind of highlight that. And hopefully we continue to see reliable play from Okoro, just like we receive reliable service from Zoom. Support for this podcast and the following message comes from Zoom. 500,000 businesses connect using Zoom, a single platform for phone, chat, workspaces, events, apps, and video. Zoom enables real-time collaboration for teams around the globe. Zoom, how the world connects.
Caught me off guard with that one, buddy. Well done. One last thing.
I can set myself up too. I can create an ISO, buddy. Don't you worry.
One last thing I'll say about Okoro, because I did kind of underplay a little bit. I'm gonna take it back the other direction and say it is nice to see that the numbers are matching what we think we're seeing, which is that he's playing better. And that is certainly encouraging as they head out on this trip.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we mentioned, Donovan Mitchell won't be joining the Cavs in Denver, but I do want to kind of highlight, because we've talked about how January is a very difficult month for the Cavs. We obviously highlight every time.
It's getting easier every day, though.
It is getting easier every day. Thank you for stealing my thunder there. But we highlight when the Cavs are at a rest disadvantage, right? Like the situations that come up in the schedule. Obviously, injuries are happening across the league. Cavs are no exception to that. But we are getting quite a bit of luck from a scheduling standpoint when you look at this West Coast trip, because Denver is playing tonight and will be on the second night of a back-to-back against the Cavs. We'll see what ends up happening there. Obviously, they have a few guys whose health they've been managing with Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. So maybe we get some rest luck there as well. Then when you play Phoenix, who's been struggling as we saw last night,
and obviously no Booker.
Yeah, no Devin Booker. Thank you. Utah is going to be on the third game in 4 nights. They will have the night off before the game, like us, but that is a bit of a rest disadvantage. No situation in Portland, although Portland hasn't been playing as well. Minnesota, it is going to be both a back-to-back and the third game in 4 nights for them, which we've seen routinely. When the Cavs are in that spot, when any team's in that spot, it does make things a lot more difficult. And obviously the Pelicans will be without Zion. So that's quite a bit of at least a little bit of help. Obviously, none of this makes it guaranteed that the Cavs are going to win. We don't know what the Cavs availability is going to be. Even if you are healthy and you're in a group, you never know when you're going to have an off night. But it is nice that when you have a tough stretch of the season, that there's a little bit of help from the scheduling gods.
Yeah, a little help from the scheduling gods, a little help from the injury gods, in terms of getting to duck Booker in the 2 games you play Phoenix, getting to duck Zion probably in the 2 games you play New Orleans. So, I think it is important that we do know that when the team does get a good break, and I think this stretch could go a really long way to kind of addressing this team's road woes. This is their last long road trip of the season, or their longest road trip of the season remaining. I think they have one more 4-gamer coming up in February or March. It looks like it's in March when they go, when it's 2, but it's 2 double road games, at Miami twice, at Charlotte twice.
Yeah.
So it's a much gentler road trip by a significant margin, right as their season starts to wrap up. So this is really the last omega challenging road trip they're going to have. And I think if they come out of this thing 3-2, 4-1, then now you're really cooking with gas, because with the exception of Brooklyn, who finally lost last night, thank goodness. The rest of
the Chicago Bulls. Thanks, Bulls.
Thank you, Bulls. The rest of the East, top of the East, has been taking on just a little bit of water. Milwaukee and Boston, both 5-5 in their last 10. So, there is some room to catch up, and they're 1.5 games back of the 1 seed. My goodness, is the top of the East bananas. I mean, Philly is the 5 seed, and they're 2.5 back of the 1 seed. A good week for them and a bad week for everyone else, and they're leading the conference. And I think if they can come out of this thing knowing that they have some advantages at play, though, of course, some disadvantages of their own, including the fact that they could be down 2 of their or really 3 if you include Rubio, 3 of their top 4 guards in Denver. But if they can take this trip with a winning record, then man, I'm feeling really, really good about the rest of January and then heading into February.
Yeah, 3-2 would feel great. It's always tough to win on the road in the NBA. We know that.
By the way, I wanted to note this because everyone is so grumpy about the Cavs' road record. The Grizzlies are 9-10 on the road. Pelicans are 7-10 on the road. The Mavericks are 7-11 on the road. Like most teams are not good on the road. Most of them. The Philly is 7-9 on the road. Milwaukee just got to 500 on the road. They were 8-9 before that ridiculous Toronto game last night. So all I'm saying is no one except the greatest teams of all time are like winning 7 out of every 10 on the road. You know, that is truly reserved for like the 65 to 73 win teams in NBA history. So if they're a 500 road team at the end of the year, I'm thrilled.
There are 5 teams with a positive net rating on the road this season. The Cavs are one of them. They still have the 3rd best net rating on the road. So that's usually an indicator. Like net rating is kind of one of those things, kind of like points for like point differential in the NFL, where it's probably a little more indicative of how good a team is rather than the record. So we'll see. I mean, just because you're better than your record doesn't mean you're going to win games down the road, because you don't know if you're going to have injuries, right? Like we saw that last season where we're saying, hey, the Cavs are doing great. They're just outside the 1 seed. They're probably better than their record. And now the schedule gets easy. And then we weren't healthy for that stretch, right? So even looking at this stretch now, sure, Darius Garland is probably coming back at some point in the near future, but
God, I'd love to see him tomorrow night. I know obviously they can't skip steps here. If he's not ready, he should not play. Marathon, not a sprint, etc. But I really think that he and Jared Allen against this Nuggets defense would be really fun.
Oh, it would be great. I mean, the Cavs are 4-2 against Denver the last 3 years here, so they routinely seem to give them a bit of a problem, and having Darius would be a bit of a throwback to last year. Like it would be fun to see the Cavs pull that one out. But when he does come back, like it's probably going to take him a little bit of time. Like sprained thumb isn't something that just quickly goes away. Dean Wade, when he comes back to the lineup, is going to take some time. Ricky's obviously going to take some time. So none of this is guaranteed, and I don't want to start counting wins or anything, but I do think that it's a good opportunity for them. And then when they do come back to Cleveland, you play Golden State first game in that matchup. Golden State will be on a back-to-back, and then we will pay for our scheduling luck, because we will be playing our 3rd game in 4 nights, 2nd night of a back-to-back, and Milwaukee will have been waiting off 3 nights since Tuesday. So that's
brutal.
That's probably going to be a tough one. I remember when the Cavs played 3rd game in 4 nights. I think it was last year against Milwaukee, and I don't think Jared Allen played in that one. And there was just no help. Everyone was exhausted, and Drew Holiday was just able to go to town on Darius, which seemed to leave a lasting impression for some people. But yeah, we are going to pay for our good fortune on the road from a scheduling standpoint.
I'll take that trade though, like 6 rest advantage games up to 1 rest disadvantage game. So, you know, obviously, I'm really excited for this Denver game, even if Darius doesn't play, because I think Denver is vulnerable right now. They're in a weird spot, Justin, where they're the number 1 seed in the West, but they only are winning their games by 2 points a game right now. Mm-hmm. They have, I want to say, the 28th defense in the league right now, and I think they're vulnerable. I think if you can punch them in the mouth, you're going to be in the game, because they are not playing super fundamental defense. They're just playing a lot of guys who are not good at guarding, and I wouldn't necessarily put Jokic in that group. No. And I think that if the Cavs can, maybe get an early lead, make an early impression, and obviously they've got I think the best offensive player in the league by a significant margin that you're going to have to deal with, but they've got a great team to do that. Jared is a great post defender. They've got length to kind of muck with passing lanes. they're going to be playing if with Donnie out, they're going to be playing really strong defenders and really smart defenders like Raul Neto and Okoro a bunch of minutes. I think that if you can bait Jamal Murray into some ISO ball, then you're going to be in really good shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, you and I were both very high on Denver. I think we both had them to come out of the Western Conference.
I'm a little disappointed, Justin.
You're a little disappointed, eh?
Yeah, I just think it's hard to say you're disappointed with the 1 seed, but when you look at the margin, like Dallas is only 2.5 games behind them with a better point differential, and everyone's sure Dallas has had a nightmare season. So I just think every time I watch them, I'm kind of waiting for them to see. I'm kind of waiting to see them kick butt, and they're just not kicking butt. And like that, we know that point differential is the number one indicator for long-term success. And they have, I want to say, the 4th or 5th best in the West. It's not like they're a powerhouse right now. And that's with some stuff going well. Aaron Gordon's playing the best basketball of his career. They're relatively healthy. Bruce Brown.
Honestly, Gordon might be their second best player.
He is. Without a doubt, he is to me right now.
I've always been a Gordon fan, but I think he's playing phenomenal basketball. I think he is an all defensive team type talent on that end of the floor. He's so smart.
He feels like he
moves off ball.
It feels like he figured out his destiny on offense, and it's not to take BS 15-footers.
Yeah, and honestly, he is the dynamic that wasn't really there in past matchups against Denver, right? Like this kind of version of Aaron Gordon is going to make this more difficult, because I think part of why the Cavs matched up well against Denver in the past is even though Jokic is transcendent, he's probably on a path to win another MVP this year. At least at this point, he's probably the front runner. Even though he is all of those things, he doesn't really put pressure on Jared Allen and Evan Mobley in the way that a Joel Embiid does, or a Giannis, where just kind of bullying his way to the rim can get them in foul trouble. Like he's going to make the right read, and he can see things and make passes that no one else can, but he's not going to kind of compromise the defense in those ways, where Aaron Gordon absolutely is going to be a wrecking ball coming at the rim. He's going to really make things difficult, and I think how the Cavs defend Gordon and Jokic and that tandem and how they work off of one another is going to be really, really interesting. And I just think he makes them such a better team. And if Jamal Murray can kind of find a groove, because I think that's the biggest thing right now is
it looks like work for Jamal Murray in the games I've watched this year.
Yeah, but depending on what night you catch him, he can either look great or it can be a struggle. It's very similar to Klay Thompson last season, right? Where some nights were great, others were rough, and other nights he was dunking on the Cavs and having his best performance of the year, because we are just the team that outliers seem to happen against.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I guess what I'll say is I think Gordon's been awesome. I remain furious. Bruce Brown was gettable for the price he was gettable at, because he's one of my favorite role players in the league. And gosh, could you imagine how good he would be on the Cavs? I mean, my goodness. But, again, Murray's been hit and miss. Bones Highland is everyone's favorite player that I'm still not so sure about. The guy breaks the offense a lot. He is an absolute sieve on the defensive end, even against mediocre offensive players. I think
he's a microwave. Like he's someone that fans of other teams are going to enjoy more, like when you're watching without any interest in the game, because he can either get 3 points or 30 points, and there doesn't seem to be a middle ground, and that's going to be a matchup that I hope you throw a Okoro or someone that provides good point of attack defense on him, just to make sure he doesn't get a groove,
because God knows he's still going to shoot even if he's well defended. So I think that they're another interesting team. And it's funny, everyone is always so obsessed with their on-off numbers with Jokic, and like, why can't they compete with Jokic on the bench? And I think this is just LeBron syndrome, man. Like, when you have such a singular talent, it just defines who you are at a certain point and at a certain volume of minutes. And I don't know what kind of combination of players the Cavs could have ever gotten around LeBron that would have won minutes with him sitting consistently, because he is
we had Kyrie and Kevin Love.
Yeah, he is such a singular identifier of style, and Jokic is even more of that. So like, I don't blame those guys. I just think it's a natural byproduct of playing with this specific of greatness. And Jokic, I think, is my favorite player in the league to watch. Another reason I'm excited for this game, because I just get to watch this amazing player play. But I do think they have weak points that you can hit again. But the Cavs are going to have to play really, really sharp on offense, and frankly, they're going to have to hit some shots with no Donnie, and ideally with Darius, but especially without Darius, they're going to have to find the right scabs to pick and play super duper fundamental defense because man, the guy is a genius.
Yeah, I mean, this is a matchup that I would love to see a playoff series against, not only because it would occur in the NBA Finals, but like I just am interested in how the Cavs can respond to what Denver does. And I think when you talk about the on-off splits with Jokic or LeBron, some of it too is teams know you have to win the minutes when they're not on the court, so they're going to go even harder because you're not going to win the minutes with them on the floor, especially when they're at the peak of their powers. Like that was very true for LeBron, and it's pretty true for Jokic too. Like even though
Jokic,
he doesn't,
I believe, has the best differential in the league right now. So when he's on the floor, in terms of like on-off split,
no, I think it's still Jetty, buddy.
No, I'm not just saying plus minus. Okay. I'm saying like the differential of his team's net rating when he's on the floor versus off the floor.
I just don't want you to minimize Turkish LeBron on me.
I would never.
I just don't want to see it. Well, we'll see how the Cavs do in this game. As we said, I think it's going to be a really unique test for them, this road trip on the whole, not just the game against Denver. I really wish that they'd be healthy for this one. Any parting thoughts, Carter, before we wrap this one up?
No, man. I don't know. I just left that Suns game feeling very just kind of warm and appreciative of this season so far. I think that they really earned that win. And on a night where they would have been so justified in playing poorly and playing flat. I don't really think they played particularly poorly. I think they were just, had tired legs and tired brains. And but they didn't let that affect their defense, and they got enough buckets to win. And, I don't know. It's funny. I didn't have a great feeling going into that Suns game, but I think even if Darius...
Me either. I mean, I messaged you saying that this was going to be a likely loss. Like, I know they were down Devin Booker, but it just seemed like the emotional hangover game, right? Like, it happens so frequently. They used up so much of their reserves to get that overtime win against Chicago. And obviously, there's the enjoyment and the celebration around Donnie scoring 71. It just seemed like the typical letdown game, and the fact that they were able to pull it off. Again, I don't think we spent enough time on Karis LeVert, but I remain impressed with what he's done overall this season. The scoring comes and goes. The shot making, it can be inconsistent, but I do like that he's been a consistent playmaker. I like the effort he's been giving on the defensive end of the court. I like that he's bought into the role to this extent, and that's another one of those instances where we're now halfway through the season. Karis has stayed healthy for the most part throughout this season, and he's really bought into this role. And I'm appreciative of him, even though the offensive output isn't consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. And you completely cut me off midpoint, so I'm going to finish it now, which is,
go ahead.
I didn't have a good feeling in that Suns game, but I kind of have a good feeling it's this in this Nuggets game. I feel like I don't know if they're going to win, but even if they're extremely shorthanded, I have a good vibe about the fact that I think they're going to be competitive. Nuggets coming off a second half of a back-to-back, and this is a game I'm sure they're much more focused on tonight. An in-conference team with a legit rival in the Clippers. And I just have a good feeling. I think the Cavs are a good vibes team right now, and I think they can muck things up against the best of them.
I have a good vibe too, but I think I always have a good vibe when the Cavs are an underdog, because I'm like,
fun. It's kind of fun, isn't it?
You're playing with house money. Donovan Mitchell's resting, so there's not going to be a lot of takeaways if you do lose this one. Let's go out. Let's upset Denver. Maybe they overlook it. Maybe they don't take them as seriously. Let's get at one of those unexpected wins. That'd be a lot of fun. But we had a lot of fun here today, and a big thanks to everyone that tuned in live on YouTube. You can like, subscribe, click notification bells to see when we're going live. If you listen via podcast, you can leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of the Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.